Beautiful day in the It's a day in the neighborhood. It's a day. I was using something else. Love's in need of love today. Don't delay. Send yours in right away. That's where I'm at right now. That's where I'm at. Welcome, everybody, to another show. Got a few things I want to talk about here for this. It's kind of like an up and down day. I'm going to talk. My last. I don't know if it's be the last thing I talk about, but I'm going to talk about my experience at Tops with the employees. And I've been on the news all morning, on national news, talking about respect. So we're going to talk about that. This whole, how now that we've had a killer try to divide us and we've pretty much stayed together as a community, all these other issues are now starting to rise up that have the potential to just simply have us divided based on what we call a side of town, based on whether the store should open, whether the store should close, based on where the money's going to go. So I'm going to talk about that because I don't think we should be allowing a killer to divide our community. So I'm going to talk about that in my thoughts. I'm going to talk about the new superintendent and what I said to her yesterday, Dr. Williams. I'm going to talk a little bit about, at the beginning, Pastor William Gillison. We are losing some giants in Buffalo. Giants. And even, thanks, Ron, those who may not be known by a lot of people, like we're booked, True Bethel is booked all next week with services, 2 motorcycle related. One, I just got a text, homicide, if we can figure out which day. And it's just a lot of, so we have these like ups and downs. We'll have a week, like we like celebrate when we got a week without a funeral here.
That's true.
We're like, why? We don't have a funeral. Great. And then it just all comes in the door. The old folks used to say they come in threes. I don't believe that. Because over here, they don't come in threes. They come in 4, 5s, and 6s. We just get a flood. And I'll just say this, we have in the back some of the leading mental health professionals in the nation, especially 2 who are in the back in a small conference here in the church. And what I was told is they chose True Bethel as a venue to come to on purpose because of how we address mental health. And this is what surprised me. And maybe because I only go to one church, so I don't know. They were concerned because there are pastors, and I ain't getting into this fight of what your pastor say. Your pastor say whatever he want to. There is a concern. I can't see the comments here. It says be the first to comment. Should I push something? A button or something on that one? That some clergy are telling people not to get mental health counseling. Like, I can't believe that. That is really, there they go. Hey, Daphne. Hey, Carolyn. Hey, Lakeisha, Jeanette, Carolyn, all you who are on Facebook and YouTube. Now, Mark, I know you've been, I've really only been a part of 2 different denominations, and only the AME Zion Church and the Baptist Church. Is that something that you've seen out there?
So I definitely have done a string, and I think it's not so much about denomination.
Hmm.
It's more about the upbringing of the church and the pastor. If it's a pastor who is sensitive to the people's needs, they don't shy away from that. And I think if you're transitioning to being a 21st century church, you understand that prayer is good, but you might need to talk to somebody Monday through Friday.
And prayer
And
may lead you to that.
exactly, exactly. But I think we've been taught that get on the altar, give it to God, put everything on Him. But then when you leave, you're going back to a house by yourself, and then it's you and your thoughts,
Yeah.
and you're really not trusting anyone. You don't know who to give it to. So if you're not transitioning to like, hey, we got you on the church side, but we got people in the church that can help you when you're not in the sanctuary, then I think you're hurting more than helping.
Yeah, I mean that really surprised me when they said, one of the reasons they wanted to be here was, we have mental health counselors. We try when they're available during for homicide, funerals,
Hmm.
tragedies, but we're so open to it and want it. I think I just assumed that everybody knew the importance of mental health and getting that help. So they're in the back, and I'm really glad to host them. They just happen to become. They've been to Rochester, Syracuse. They're here in Buffalo, and they happen to arrive here yesterday on the day, of course, when we had the ceremonies for Tops. So I don't want to go into that so much yet, but let me talk about the Reverend Dr. William Gillison, because that's how I started talking about this and death, so much death. Giant in the church. I remember watching Pastor Gillison on the public access channel back in the day. And public access was real rough then. You usually did, that one shot. And then we were editing on these big tapes, and it wasn't always the clearest thing in the world, but it was the best that we had at that time. And when I first started seeing Mount Olive, they weren't in their new location, they were in their first building. And it would always be packed. They always had a great choir. Pastor Gillison, always one of the known preachers here. And then they moved. And I can't really tell you my first interactions with him. I know that, I knew of him. He was this big figure, William Gillison. But my first interaction had to be when I probably joined the Baptist Ministers Conference when True Bethel became a part of that. But first really working with him was in community stuff. And him, we were protesting the Walden Galleria Mall. And one of the first pastors that came to me and said, "We will join you all." It was myself, Councilmember Wyatt, who wasn't a council member then, Janice. The three of us had an organization we started called Concerned Citizens Against Violence, one of the first, if not the first, anti-violence groups here. And Pastor Gill, I never expected him to join the protests. And he to this day, he always called me young fella. Always, that was his word for me. Hey, young fella,
Me
hey,
too.
the same thing, right?
Yep.
So, young fella, that's where I was until 57 years old, until our last conversation a few weeks ago. And he said, "Hey, I like what you're doing. I like how you're handling things. We will join in with you." And literally, when we were out on that protest line in front of the Galleria, William Gillison was there by my side. When we would do the news, William Gillison was there. When we met, with, it was Pyramid Group. I don't know if they still own it, but Pyramid Group, about certain things. We were getting complaints, and it came out of this radio show. This is the crazy thing. People started calling me about being overly arrested in Cheektowaga, about, you know, how they were treating people of color in the Galleria Mall from this radio show and off this radio station. And so we decided to do a movement. And so we did. And I remember meeting with Pyramid, and they were, okay, we're going to improve this, and they gave us promises of NWBE stuff and da-da-da-da. And we were able to help. I ain't gonna say it's where it needs to be, but I tell you what, we were not just protesting there. We went at Cheektowaga itself. And I remember the editorial in the Buffalo News basically said the people of Cheektowaga, the police force, need to take the blinders off, that what we were saying was accurate. And then what happens? They hire a chief called, not name of Zach. Zach has passed. I think he passed. No, Zach retired. Let me not kill off Zach. The last chief. Zach comes in and calls together black leaders and says, we need to do better. We need to do better. And did. And I can remember an incident in which the Cheektowaga police showed up to a hotel. There was a complaint. A woman was having a small birthday party for her kids, little children, little. I mean little. 4 or 5. I think they were like 8 years old. Somebody called in a complaint that they were too loud, but it wasn't them. It was another room, because when the police arrived, the children were asleep. The police then said, if we come back, we're going to kick everybody out. Little kids. She opened up the door. Look, they're asleep. This is not us. Another complaint come. They come, literally tell them, get your stuff. And she's like, I got to call parents. It was raining outside. They wouldn't even let them stay in the hotel and wait for parents to come get them. Made them stand in the rain. I called Zach the next morning after she called me. Zach brought in the 2 officers, said that they were wrong, and they were disciplined. That's the kind of results that we got out of Cheektowaga working with Dr. Gillison. We go on and have worked together, obviously, through Baptist Ministers Conference, and even through the National Baptist Church, which he was very, very active in. And at one point, I was trying to help our Baptist College, ABC, they call it, American Baptist College, in Nashville, when they were going through some troubles, and he was right there. And so a few weeks ago, and I take this time because he deserves the time. Tonight is a service that is going to be befitting of his life, and then tomorrow, of course, the grand funeral, homegoing. So a few weeks ago, I've realized that I did not have in my life another pastor older than me to talk to. Like, I just don't. My pastor is gone on to be with the Lord. My first pastor, Dr. Whitted. The pastor of my, when I say home church, St. Luke, where I grew up, was a member of True Bethel, and still a dear friend. He just was moved to Troy, but was a member. I actually, I believe I did him and Nadia's wedding, but at least him and Nadia belonged here first. And so he's younger than me. So when I call him, he says, "Hey, big bruh." So I was sitting in my kitchen going, you have no one to talk to. And then I was like, you know what? Probably if I'm going to talk to anybody, number one, it would be Bishop Reed. But I tried, Bishop Reed is 80-some years old. I tried not to burden him. And some of the things that that we go through as African Americans, you can love African Americans, but you might not be able to kind of identify.
Right.
And so I thought, Gillison, that's it. That's the one that I think, yeah, I got to call him. So I knew he had been in the hospital, really didn't want to call him, called him, and Obviously, the name came up, and he was like, "What do I owe the pleasure of you calling me?" And I said, "You know what? I just wanted to hear your voice. I just wanted to talk." And I talked about a few things, and then I said, "I just want to see you." I said, "So when you feel better, I'll come out to the house." And he said, "Call Dwayne, his son, and come on this week." And I remember telling you, and you said, "You going to the mansion?" And I said, "Okay." And I called Dwayne. Dwayne made it happen. I sat with him for longer because you know me. I'm like, I'm only coming in for a minute. Just want to see you. I'm out the door. And he ends up, there's a chair right there by where he was. And he's like, "Sit down." And we start talking and talking and talking and talking. And then before I knew it, now I had sat still that whole time. We talking about, he was concerned about another grocery store coming. He was concerned, just things we were both concerned about. Talking about ministry, talking about just a lot. So I'm getting ready to go, and he asked me something about either what I preached Sunday or something. And so, now I'm in my preaching mode. So I get up and I'm walking in back and forth in the living room, and I'm kind of like I'm on Sunday morning. And he looked at me and started laughing and said, "I was wondering how long you was gonna be able to sit still." I said, "Well, I tried, but you asked me." So he said, "Come back." And I said, "I will." And I told Dwayne, we walked out, and I said, I'll come back again. And unfortunately, that opportunity never came. He went on to be with the Lord. But I know I'm not a grandfather of the church yet. I should be, I guess, a father of God's church now. Not sure that I really feel that. I'm not sure that I really even understand the gravity of that. But I will tell you this: the younger pastors, many of them, do call me, and I'm honored. I'm going to read you. And I shouldn't say who this came from, if I can find it. The other day, I get this text from one of the newest pastors, and it really blessed my heart. Let's see if I can find this. And it was, I've been involved in praying with the folks over at Tops, and okay. Well, one of the pastors, I'm not going to say the names, but one of the pastors who met with another grocery store about coming and was like surprised that they wouldn't come, called and was like, "Hey, let's talk. I need some advice." That meant a lot to me, and then, I gotta find this one of another young pastor who texted and just basically talked about, oh, here it is. It's a picture of me. He sends a picture of me at the White House that you took, Mark, and he crops out everybody else except me.
Wow.
And he says, "This picture is worth more than 1,000 words. Thank you for serving as a model for what genuine and impactful ministry resembles. I'm proud to call you Common Council President, but even more proud to call you a colleague in ministry. Corey Gibson."
Wow.
That was like, and I hope he doesn't mind I shared that. But, Corey is significantly younger than me. And for him to reach out and others. So I know I'm not a grandfather in ministry, but for them to trust me, so many of them to call and us to talk things through, and not that I know all the answers. God knows I'm still trying to figure this thing, the church, out. But it is an honor to be respected to the point of saying, "I want to know how you feel about something." And so I say to them all, Andre Clark, who, I'm scared I'm going to miss somebody. EJ, all of these guys who will reach out and say, "Hey, I got this thought," or "How can I help here?" The pastor of Calvary, I remember when he called me, Calvary, not Calvary, First Calvary. Is it right?
Drayton.
Yeah, Drayton. When he had the dream about building a church, he needed city land. And he's like, he was, kind of like, like I get when it's time for a project. And I was like, I'm going to get you that land. Don't you worry. Then they called back. They needed something else. I'm going to get that. Don't you worry. Excuse me. Invited to his, when they broke ground, and reminded them that they were the first church in probably a decade to build from the ground up in the city of Buffalo. Well, at least Baptist churches. There's another one that was a smaller one, but the point is for them, for the Dr. Gillisons to be moving on, and for I know in some places there is the divide between the sons of the gospel and the daughters. I ain't leaving you ladies out. And the fathers in the gospel. And it's like, well, they don't get this and they don't get that. I am honored that some may say that about me, but I'm honored that I'm telling you a vast majority of the younger pastors and newer serving pastors, there's a connection. We have each other's cell phone. So I just have to say that because I think when you listen to and I'm sure they talk about it here too, this kind of conversation of the seasoned and the new, and, we don't have any sons and we don't have any fathers. And I do think that we do have some sons, but they're looking for relationships. And I do believe we have some fathers, and we all have to be open to helping one another.
I was getting ready to say that's the difference, Both sides have to want it. Like, you can't force sonship on a father, and you can't force fatherhood on a son.
Yeah.
So both sides have to want it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then not blame the other, like, well, we ain't got no fathers. Well, there are plenty, but they're not going to, what you want them to do? Make themselves your fathers. There's those relationships that are organically built because of what you said, because you want it to be there. We will never be able to replace Dr. William Gillison. Never. He did things in ministry that are unheard of. And when I read in the paper the other day that whole campus over there ran $3 million, they paid it off in 6 years. But $3 million, I wish. Look, we're doing a project right now, or in the plan. Well, now trying to finance it. It ain't $6 million anymore, and it's not even a whole campus, and it's not $3 million. If it's $3 million, we good to go. We ordering steel tomorrow. Do you hear me? But he did that, and I mean, that building is nothing short of fabulous. The way he has conducted ministry has been nothing short of fabulous, with integrity. He believes God. He just believes God. And he believed him and trusted him. And so he's going to be missed. His son, Dwayne, who's such a great guy. I can't say enough about. I know Pastor Gillison has other children, and my heart goes to them. And, of course, his wife, my heart goes to her. She is a giant in her own right. Everybody knows you just don't mess with Tony Gillis. You just don't. You just don't. She'll put you right where you need to be, and quickly. She that old school. Pastor's wife. No. And that's not a bad thing. But his son, Dwayne, who dedicated such a huge portion of his life, and he's married and has a family, but to his dad. And to his wife, because very few people know that Dwayne would spend some time there, some time at his dad's, get his dad up and help get his dad up in the morning, get him to meetings still in the wheelchair. As a matter of fact, one of the reasons that I've worked so hard to get an elevator to the floor of the council was because of him and others like him. Who needed to be on the floor, but they would have to be up in what I call the birdhouse, up in the top, because we had no access. And for years, there were people who were saying preservationists aren't going to allow it. Preservationists aren't going to allow it. Well, I got it done. And there is a wheelchair access onto the chamber floor now. And he was one of the first to use it.
He was the first.
Was he the first?
Yep.
Because I know he came to dedicate it. And so that's huge. So I just wanted to spend the first half an hour and dedicate it to a much deserving Pastor Gillison. I'll be speaking tonight at his services tonight. I was watching something on YouTube. In Jamaica, they don't call it a homegoing. Or in New Orleans, I'm sorry, I forgot.
Oh, I know the term.
I cannot remember. If somebody out there knows, but I kind of like it. You know, they celebrate in New Orleans. They celebrate in New Orleans. They do the real slow stuff on the way to, I think, the cemetery, and the horns and the when the saints go. No, they do that at the end. And then when they leave that cemetery, they come out with umbrellas so hot there, and dancing and brass bands and
Yep, it's
celebrating. What is it called?
It's called a jazz funeral, and then when they come back in the street, it's the second line.
Second line. But it was something that I saw on the like obituaries, that it wasn't like homegoing, and it wasn't celebration of life. I got to look it up. But I recently, in thinking about Pastor passing, I did several things, and I did, I think, one of these before he passed, and that is I went and finally got an appointment, made an appointment, went to Forest Lawn, as I've discussed before, and I'm going to say it here so that it's in 3 places, so you know my final wishes. Went to Forest Lawn. I have a mausoleum that I paid for in Forest Lawn, right across from Shirley Chisholm. If you go in Birchwood, if you go straight down the middle, you look to the left, and on the top it says Shirley Chisholm, and then it has unbought, unbossed, you know, her saying, unbought. And so I made my appointment because since I paid so much money for it, I want to see my name up there. And so the gentleman was so nice at Forest Lawn. So they have a kind of formula of what they do, and they usually just put like Pridgen across the top, and then it's like Darius to one side, and then if you know, I do have a double and then the name. So I said, no, I don't want that. And he was like, well, I don't think you could do it any other way. And I was like, oh yes. And so we looked up Shirley Chisholm's, and I was like, I want it like this. He's like, oh, I didn't even know we could do it in there. And so I paid, and hopefully it'll be inscribed before my birthday in October. But I paid to have the Honorable Darius Pridgen, and Honorable. I've toyed in between Bishop but the Honorable is used even in the church world. Yep. So I put it to. So now I met both the Honorable Darius Pridgen, Darius G. Pridgen. And then on the way there, I was like, what saying would I want there? And I couldn't think of anything until I pulled up, and it was like the Spirit of God brought back to my remembrance, which he promised he would do, one of my favorite songs, Safe in His Arms. And so when I said it, the guy almost breaks down. He's like, oh my goodness, this says it all. Wow. I said, yeah, because I want when my children come, if they come to visit, or other people, or the tours are happening and I'm laid to rest, I want people not to leave there in tears. I want them to leave there knowing that I believe this Bible and I'm safe in his arms, that I'm resting until that trumpet sounds. So I'm so excited about that. And that's really crazy maybe to say that, but my body will be laid to rest in between both of my grandparents. My maternal grandmother is to the right of Birchwood, and my paternal grandparents are to the left of Birchwood.
Wow.
And so D, as they call me, my favorite name, D will be laid to rest right in the middle of both grandparents. So when I go to visit one, and I know we just do this for our own mental health, talking to gravestones, I'll tell my grandmother, all right, I got to go, because I got to go over to Grandma Mary now. And then I go around the corner, which is literally around the corner, and I see Grandma Mary, and then I always go in Birchwood and look up, but there's nothing on mine, but it will be. So I reposted a post that I posted the other day in light of people passing on, because I don't want my family arguing. I don't want them going, he would have wanted this. I'm going to tell you what I want. Night before, if it's not winter and storming, I love music. I love to have music. Like, I think they're doing that tonight. They're having some music.
Yep.
Just music, some remarks. Not no long. Don't let anybody get up there for an hour making remarks. making remarks. No, just make hey, and don't break everybody down crying. Tell some funny stuff. Tell some stuff, but mostly just music, and chosen remarks. No open mic.
Oh, no.
Because there's always the people who ain't have nothing good to say about you that want to grab a mic. Go ahead, Mark.
I was getting ready to say, like they always say, don't get up there lying on me.
Well, and this is what agitates me, because I see it all the time. They'll say stuff like this, because we ain't really get along. Then get off the mic. Why would you grab the mic at somebody's home talking about we didn't get along? Nobody cares that you did not get along, and it's unfair. Nobody wants to hear that. Why are you now speaking at my wake? No. My family know who I rock with. And if you gotta ask, can you speak at a service? Nah, boo boo. Nah, mama, you don't need that. I don't know what's happening with my live talks, because it's not. What did I do, Mark? It's stuck. It was the last comment from Daphne McNabb. Is that the last comment?
I have one from Brenda Plowden.
You can't speak, and if we didn't call you, and I'm trying to teach y'all funeral etiquette right now. You go to somebody's funeral, they know who you are, but they also know how the deceased really felt about you. So if they don't ask you, don't burden that family talking about we was close. Can I speak? How close was you that nobody in the family know you? Huh? They use the first line, you are wonderful, great accomplishment leader, love you. Thank you, Paulette Wood, school board member. And I'm going to be talking, I'm right, I got to get to talking about the superintendent. But, okay, so let me finish talking about the Pridgen funeral. So that night, because True Bethel was built on come as you are, I want to be as I am. They don't have to go out and buy nothing new, because you might go out and buy. I got plenty of clothes. And you know which ones I like. Put me on my clothes.
You know, it's funny. I said the exact same thing.
Really?
I literally was like, and like you said, I ain't rushing anything.
Right.
But if I do, I definitely want 2 nights. And the first night, I want to be in T-shirt, Timbs, and jeans. Like, I prefer being like this more than being in a suit.
Well, that's why we all right. That's why we cool. Now, I don't want no Timbs. That's Mark. So don't y'all get this confused.
Yeah, don't get confused.
Right. I like my sneakers. But make sure they're clean. If you're using the ones with the white soles, make sure it's got to be clean.
Got to clean.
And
I want fresh Timbs. Like go spend $180.
And you want fresh ones? See, I want what I've been wearing, because my pinky toe. See, in some shoes, my pinky toe hurt. So you saw me on the plane the other day. I kept pulling off my shoe. My pinky toe was hurting. It ain't hurting now because I went and did some doctoring on it. But I don't want them squeezing no shoe on me, because they done went out and bought a 9. Because some shoes got to have a 9.5. So don't squeeze up my pinky toe. Y'all know which ones I like. Put the shoes on that I like. So that's what I want first night. Second day, just funeral, just home going. And if Bishop Reed is still with us, any of these people, because none of y'all might not be with us, and I might not be. Who knows? Well, obviously I won't be. And obviously leadership from Full Gospel Baptist Church, which I am a proud member, and get it done. I don't think Craig gonna let nobody else do the eulogy, but we'll see. We've discussed it.
We'll see if he can get through it.
Yeah, I'll see, but I told him let the bishop do it, and then we'll see. Now that's gonna be up for them to decide. All right, so that, and then when I know people say, "Oh, it's a waste of money for flowers," flowers. Don't be talking about donate them. Nope, you donate flowers so that it's aroma of life and freshness in the room. That's all. And take me and put me in that tune. And if it is nice outside, I really would love to feel like New Orleans and brr, brr. And I know church folk, y'all about to get mad at me, but I'm going to say it. At my repast, if y'all have a repast, have a DJ, play all the gospel, but you got to wobble, 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 wobble. Get up. Yeah, at least a couple line dances. I don't care what it is. A couple line dances. I do not want my grandchildren leaving my services broken. I want my children, my grandchildren, my family to leave celebrating the life.
Wow.
Now, that's it. I said it. I said it. Now, if I go out here, drop on this, my mother is probably having a fit. She probably has cut off the radio. She has cut off the radio. But if I walk out here and drop dead, hey, y'all can say Pridgen was ready. Only thing I ain't paid for yet is my casket, but I've been clear, wooden casket. Now, I don't mean, let me be clear.
The pine box.
I ain't talking about pine box with those string handles. I'm talking about a nice wooden casket. I left enough. I was
getting ready to say, the nicest wood casket was it George K. Arthur's? His
it was nice.
Nice wood.
But what color was his? Because I don't want a black one.
They said it was the same as his furniture in City Hall. So
that's a nice one. The furniture that I had.
Yep.
I had his furniture, folks. That was my first furniture. Old as I don't know what. So, okay, let me move on. Yeah, that song when they leave the cemetery in New Orleans. Oh, when the saints. I want all that. They could put them on a flatbed so they ain't got to walk. I hope when the Lord, I was about to say, take me in the summer.
Not if the Lord.
Not, please, Lord, don't take me in a Buffalo winter. It's too cold. All right. Oh, and the last thing on that, no rentals. I pastored True Bethel. Now, even if I ain't pastoring no more, unless something happened where they don't like me and I don't like them. If something happened, then you could take me over to Mount Olive. But if something don't happen, bring me home. Now, bring me home to where I have labored.
I feel like
20-something years.
And I feel like Elam becomes the funeral home of pastors, the homegoing home for pastors.
Yeah, that's why I'm telling you where.
Go to Elam.
Yeah, I want, if I had to be, because I want to stay right here in the neighborhood, it would be Mount Olive for me. If something happened, where we could not do a service here, it would be right around the corner. And there's a relationship built there. So that's why I'm saying it all now. Don't make no choices for me. I've already said it. Am I clear? Okay. New superintendent, Dr. Williams, I had the opportunity to be, that was asked to have some remarks yesterday. And council chambers was packed.
Sure was.
I don't know if there was one. I've never seen a superintendent swearing in that big. It was packed, and there were supporters from all walks of life. And so in my remarks, I talked to her about the fact that this was more than a job, more than an office, that she literally held the future of Buffalo in her hands. And how she's, not the first woman, not the first African-American. You on it with the pictures. But one of the first superintendents that I know to go to every corner of the city and listen. And they gave her a standing ovation when I said that. And then talk to other firsts. I want you to be the first to raise our graduation rates higher than we ever expected. I want you to be the first, and went down the line of those things. And so we wish her well, but we're going to have to work with her, folks. No person is going to be able to do this alone. We're going to have to work with our own children. I'm disappointed that there aren't many PTAs anymore. I think that those are going to have school-based PTA, parent-teacher associations, right there in the building. We know we have some outstanding parent groups at large, but we need in the building those parents. So we are not going to be able to, she is not going to be able to do this alone. It is a choice of the Board of Education. I was so glad that the mayor made that plain yesterday, that the Common Council does not vote on the superintendent. This is a choice of your elected school board members. Now, I get a lot of calls every day on everything from sidewalks to school stuff. And I take those calls and say to the people calling about school stuff, call your school representative. And you need to know who your school representative is, because the Common Council has no control over the Board of Education. None. Not a nary one. Now, if you all knew some of the calls I get and things that we can't do, people think that we have this kind of all-powerful hand. There are some things we cannot do. And so at the end of the day, it is going to be important for you to contact your school board leaders when there are school board issues. And God knows there are issues. I'm not going to pretend that it's not. We just had 2 years of not being in school. This was the first year, obviously, that children were back in school, but they're still not where they need to be. I'm just going to say it. And it's going to take a lot of community effort for that to occur and our children to come back up to speed, period. So congratulations to Dr. Williams.
One real
Go
quick.
ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, since we weren't on last week, we didn't talk about Buffalo's new chief judge.
Right. Oh, yeah. Wait a minute. Let me see something, because it's saying comments are hidden. I've never seen this happen before. Because I'm stuck again. What did you do? Comments and reactions are hidden.
I literally had to close the feed and bring it back up.
So something is going wrong. So if you see a comment, let me know. Yeah, there's a new judge in town, a new chief judge in town. The first woman chief judge in city court, the first woman in the known history of the city of Buffalo, Judge Darius Pridgen. Congratulations to Judge Pridgen. Obviously, the names are the same. It is my daughter-in-law married to my son, Craig, and her dream she wasn't a lawyer. She was finishing law school when they met, had finished law school. She was taking the bar, and she always dreamed of being a judge. She worked her way up from the DA's office all the way to where she is now, to making history in the city of Buffalo. And so she did receive the Democratic Party's nomination unanimously, along with Sam Davis, so the Honorable Sam Davis. The Honorable Judge Sam Davis. We cannot forget that. And the Honorable Greg, what's Greg's last name?
Gary Wilson.
Gary Wilson. I just called him Greg. Lord, somebody don't tell him. The Honorable Gary Wilson. All three African Americans. And I'm just going to tell you this, and I hope I'm not talking out of school. The party chair was not afraid to nominate 3 African Americans at once. The mayor was not afraid to appoint 3 African Americans all at once. Let me say it again. The party chair is a white man. But he said to me, oh, I'm not afraid to do that. Because, a lot of times we always trying to get a racial balance, no, he said, this is the time. If we're going to do it, this is the time. The mayor said the same thing. This is the time. Because of the sensitivity, and I think Sam Davis said it best, that the city court is like a hospital, like an emergency room. And so when the people come in, they need to see people who understand the trauma of being arrested, the trauma that it's going to have on your family and everything else. And having somebody who understands it. So that, and he said this, and this, I really appreciate this out of Judge. Judge. I like to call people by their title, Judge Sam Davis.
Especially if I might stand before him.
Yeah, well, prayerfully not, but the fact that we have 2 African-American males going. He said, they should leave better than when they came in the door. Who says that? Who has to be a judge? And then he said, I think it was him who said, there's only one judge that I know, that I've been taught there's only one judge, because he went into preaching in that room. He said,
no, that was Hannah.
Was that Hannah who said that? It was Hannah, Judge Hannah, who is now State Supreme Court Judge Hannah, another African-American man. It was State Supreme Court Judge Hannah who said there's only one God. And but since I've been trusted to judge, something to that effect, that he wanted to do it the right way. Oh, godly. I'm so proud of them and any African American doing their thing. Speaking of African Americans doing their thing, we were in Tops yesterday. One of the products that they now carry is a sauce by an African American woman from Buffalo who's here. I picked it up. You can look on my Facebook page. I held it up. And it said over the thing, Top support black businesses. And they're going to have other things. So if you make something, make it good, make it legally. You can't, not what you grow, although that's legal. They're not going to sell that in Tops. I'm talking about product. And then you got to start shopping your product. I forgot the name of the product, but some of y'all know. And if you say it in the remarks, I'm not going to see it because my system is really acting strange. Tops. Okay. Folks, this morning I've done CNN, MSNBC, NPR. In a little while, I'm going to do another station in Erie. They're asking the same thing. How are people doing? How do they feel about the store opening? Now, I'm just going to say this. I'm going to put it out there. And one asked me, I think it was NPR asked me, well, how do you balance when you have members, some of who want it open and some who don't? And here's my answer. I teach respect. Respect other people's opinions. This, I don't want to call him out of his name, but I can call him out of his name. This evil person came into this community to do division, cause death. And the Bible says that basically the job of the enemy, spiritual enemy, is to kill, steal, and destroy. Mm-hmm. So he started out in order, kill. Then he wanted to steal, I believe, any amount of joy and peace we have in our community. Steal our feeling of safety and then destroy the whole community. Now, whether you believe Tops should open or not, you have every right to that opinion and feeling. And at the end of the day, it's okay. But if we allow that, just like East Buffalo, now I say them both. And sometimes I say one, sometimes I say East Side. And I don't think I should be villainized because I want to call it East Side. Sometimes I might say East Buffalo, and I don't feel I should be villainized. And, oh, God, you said East Buffalo. No. It's the same way some older people, black people, still refer to themselves as Negro. I ain't going to sit there and go, we don't say Negro anymore. We say African American. Oh, God, is it that serious?
I was going to say, or black.
Or black.
Yep.
Or black. At the end of the day, if it's not done in disrespect, we need to learn how to respect others. Respect that somebody from a family who lost a loved one is saying never again. And not have to try to prove our point why again. You never gonna see me sit for hours on end arguing why I think Tops should be open. I'm just not gonna do it. At the end of the day, I was asked to go into Tops for, first of all, a private tour. Then I was asked at that private tour before to pray when they opened ceremonially with the employees. And I chose in my heart no in the beginning. It's like, I'm not doing that. And it wasn't because it was because, number one, I didn't think I could handle it. And number two, because I knew our community was split over it. So I said no. When I got to that store and those employees lit up and had so much strength with one another, and when I don't know if it was the COO said to me, it's the employees who asked if you would pray for them. I was like, how can I not do my job of praying with people because we're split on whether it should open? And then not only was I asked to pray for the ceremonial opening with the employees, but then asked to pray the prayer with the dignitaries who were invited later for a tour and leaders. Whether I think it should be open or not is always going to be something in the back of my mind. But I'm not going to fall out with somebody because they feel it shouldn't be. And I hope we as a community don't let this racist supremacist separate us now about names or openings. And I know some say it's bigger than that, Pridgen. I got it. But can we agree to respect one another and to move, because there's going to be other things that separate us. Somebody just said to me in a meeting here, they said it in the open forum, why can't we have any other grocery store? Why can't blah, 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 blah. Folks, it's called economics. Grocery stores are not coming into communities just because they want to be philanthropic. But here's what I truly believe. If we could build a Tesla plant, and I'm talking about the government, if New York State could find money to finance the plant of a multi-billionaire, and this was not this administration who did it, we can find money to incentivize to bring needed services into our community. You want to know how you do that? You build the daggone building with an agreement with some national chain, and you forgive the taxes for so many years as long as they're operating and hiring from the community. The same incentives that go into keeping up buildings built in 1890, and we'll give you extra money to do this, and the pilots are in place to benefit the community around. Let's do the same thing. And let's do it on purpose. Because it's more than just a grocery store that our communities need. But understand, as you build these things, it will change neighborhood dynamics.
Yes, it will.
So to every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So at the end of the day, we do need the services, but we also need to own the land more that we live in, or else you won't be able to control the rents. And people from out of Buffalo will buy it and will not care about your cries and protests of gentrification, because they're not here to please the people of Buffalo. They're here to pay for their pools in other cities. Mm-hmm. They're here to pay for their Lamborghinis. They're here to pay for their Toyotas, whatever it is. So we can beautify the neighborhood, but it doesn't mean it will be our neighborhood, especially if we don't have any ownership. And you can say what you want to about me. I've been sitting on this program and everywhere over the last 20 years saying buy. I said buy in the fruit belt over 20 years ago. I said it. I said buy. Buy when lots were 300. Now lots, you ain't buying a lot for 300.
Sure ain't.
The average lot is going for $16,000. It's just what's up. Somewhere in there. It's more than 300, I'll tell you that. But we have to own. So I'm encouraging my community, our community, and don't let outsiders come in and pit us against each other. I'm going to say it one more time for those in the back. We all we have. Don't let outsiders, some of who want to move into your neighborhood, have us fall apart so much that at the end of the day, they get exactly what they wanted. Your rental house, or your house, or your land, or whatever it is. Let's not divide. Stay united. Respect one another's desires and wishes, and move our community forward for us, by us. I know that's product, but you get it? Speaking of moving our community forward, for us, by us, Hobson's the doctor of dry cleaning. Right here in our community. Didn't move out, didn't move to the suburbs, didn't open up 3 other branches and then leave this branch. 874 East Delavan. Also, Brian K. Lewis Funeral Homes, 3 locations to serve you. 347 Peckham, 2528 Bailey, 1275 Sycamore. In your hour of need, call somebody who invests in your community, who's located in your community. Brian K. Lewis Funeral Homes. I'm going to send it over where they got the good commercials and where they have the music behind them, and Lee's voice is real smooth. Until next week, power to the people.